All right, we are back for the final video in this short series. This one is probably everybody's least favorite topic in the realm of dicing for life objectives. Before we get into it, let me quickly catch you up on where we're at. No strong hook for this video other than if you find yourself in a place of uncertainty, but the passion to do more, this is how you unlock it. We actually use this behind the walls of the Prestige, our Applied Somatics Academy, with a specific type of person. Okay, now we've got accelerators in the Prestige. It's a cool place. We've got so many cool things, but the accelerators are built to take somebody that wants a thing, doesn't know how to achieve it, but is willing to go all in. Boom, we design that. Businesses, bodies, passions, whatever it is, we achieve extraordinary results. It's super cool, but there is a subcategory of person, which is this. Sometimes people book this engagement, and once we are all committed, we don't just abandon ship once we are in there, but we need to find a way to reorient. So they come in, they've got the idea, they've got the point of passion, and then after a couple of, pushbacks from Lindsay or I, or we start to test and poke this idea a little bit, the value of it, how we're going to achieve it, so on and so forth, something kind of comes up, which is, now that we've done a bit of back and forth, I'm not as sure that I want it as I was. I'm not sure it matters that much. And this is a weird place to be because now the three of us are engaged in this trifecta of awesomeness and the target just deteriorated. So in this particular case, we need to find a way through this. And this is something in the first video that is called The Filter. I talk about where this came from, how it's effective, what we do. But this entire video series is the process that you can take for yourself. Try it, apply it, amazing. Start with the Filter PDF that is in the description below as a resource that it'll walk you through what I tried to teach, but it spells it out. You fill in the lines, helps you filter. We call it the filter. Helps you filter meaningful categories and then subdividing that into meaningful points of action before you even get to the dice roll. Then there is a process to what happens in terms of allocation of meaning and probabilities on the die. That's in the second video, the roll. The third video was on implementation. What it means to take that roll, the number that comes up on the die, and now I've got a week that I've committed to this, it's going to come up in a number of ways and all the feels, like am I all in still, or did I realize I made a mistake and maybe don't care about it that much, or did I realize it's awesome but now I'm afraid I can't achieve it, or I'm just intimidated by the premise itself. Commitment to the process is where all the magic happens. On the front end, that's commitment and execution in a methodical way. That's why feedback helps. If you do this yourself, are you holding yourself to true accountability and striving for things that are meaningful? This is where the role of the coach becomes super valuable because they can help you filter and say, well, that's kind of a dog shit target, or is that really that meaningful? Or look, you could do that in the next 20 minutes. Why does it get a roll on the die when you're saying you want to spend an hour a day with your dying mother? That's an awful thing to say, but you want a better relationship with your mother. You're going to spend an hour a day. That's one out of 6. But on this one, you could just do that in 20 minutes and be done with it. Why does that get a roll? You need somebody that will help you bounce these ideas and filter and get smarter along the way. But the true process of filtering comes over the course of the implementation because that's where you feel the commitment. You see how you orient, and now at the end of the week, you've rolled the die, you've taken the action, and it is time for what I lovingly call the initiation, but cheekily it is a penalty system. Boom. We have one key penalty here. It's called a kamikaze tequila. My buddy Michael was doing this before we met back in 2009 initially, but started dice rolling in 2011. He was doing this ahead of time. The kamikaze tequila was the one penalty that we landed on. We tried several penalties, and the problem was we got better at the other penalties. The kamikaze tequila is not something you get better at. It stays awful, which is why it is a great penalty. Also, it's something that makes sense to do at bars, which is where we would dice roll and take our penalties. You take the shot of tequila, you sniff a line of salt, which is the worst of these three, and then you squeeze half a lemon in your eyes. So you look pretty stupid for the next 10 minutes as you cry and heave and your brain smells like salt, and then you get a little sauced. It is a miserable experience, but Once you've done this once, you are initiated into this cult. No, into this dice coaching process. But it must take place. Now, you could think of other penalties if you want, but use the same filter that I just provided, which is you shouldn't be able to get better at a penalty. It needs to remain awful because that's what disincentivizes negotiations and pivots and moving goalposts and lying about the outcomes. People play games with themselves, right? Especially if it's been multiple weeks or these start to add up and you're not getting smarter fast enough, okay? But the good thing about this is you get smarter very quickly when you take the first penalty, but you must take the penalty. Because otherwise, if you negotiate on the process and then you don't take a penalty, or if you fail on the process and don't take the penalty, there is no negative reinforcement for either bad selection on the front end or bad execution during the process. And these are the 2 points that when they come together, week on week, okay, for 1 week, we don't know. You could do anything. It could be a point of novelty or curiosity. It's not a growth process for 1 week. It's an experience, or it's a feat. It's not a skill. But 3, 4 weeks in, 6 weeks in, 8 weeks in, and something magical starts to happen, which is the penalty that once you've tasted, you are now in the club, and you say, that does suck. So on the one hand, I've got something that I've identified as truly meaningful, an hour with my dying mother, an hour with my mother a day, or building the business in a specific way. This is a stuck point and I need to activate this, or pursuing a hobby, or improving a relationship, whatever came up. I have a point of meaning and orientation that I've pre-vetted. And on the back end, I am tasting the sting of failure. The failure comes through bad selection or bad implementation. This will teach me what that is, and it will give me the insight to say, okay, I chose something that wasn't meaningful. Don't do that again. Or it will say, you know what? You failed at something you said was meaningful, and don't do that again. And now, once the penalty is taken, the penalty happens before you are allowed to roll for anything else. It comes first, but once you do, and if it's kamikaze tequila, send us an email and be like, hey, I took this shit, I tried the dicing, I am now an initiate in the world of Dice Club within the Prestige, and it is everything I hoped it would have been. But you're an initiate, and it means this one very thing. It means that you now have the final filter in terms of value and meaning. And we got into this process, I will remind you why we got into this process. Because you're stuck, you're uncertain, you're not sure what next action to take, but you feel a burning need to express, to create, to move things forward. You're not that person who stays stuck or doesn't see yourself as somebody that's broken. That ain't you. You're the person that does the things, achieves the things. Just right now, things are a little bit less clear. And so what we've done is we've created the conditions to test assumptions. Scientists, as we are. We've tested assumptions. We've felt the penalty and the consequence. Why am I holding this up? Boom, shot, lemon in the eye. Felt the consequence. And now we get the process. And now you're an initiate, which means now you're in a position to actually play the game. It starts, that's why we call it the initiation. It starts after first failure. If you go 4 weeks and you don't fail a target, let me challenge you. Are you setting meaningful targets that test your true ability in a week? Or are you setting stuff that's easy to achieve? If you want to set low ball targets and have low standards, by all means, but that's a race to the bottom. This is for people that want to do cool shit and brag about it over beer and burgers on Friday nights. That's who we're talking to. You want to build something. So are you aiming high enough? Are the 3 items that you're putting on the list truly meaningful in each category? If yes, then we get to the next problem, which is, okay, so you're great at this stuff, but look, we need to aim high enough to where we're really testing the range. At some point, failure is going to happen if you're serious about the process. And then who do you become? Do you start to bend the rules now that you've felt the sting and weasel around the targets because you don't want to take the penalty? Or does the filtering process and the dice coaching process truly take effect? Because this is what should happen. I've set a meaningful goal, ran after it for a week, felt the sting of failure. The juice was either worth the squeeze or it wasn't. And that is not just an idea anymore. It was an idea a week ago before I rolled for it, but now I know because I gave it a probability. And as you know from the last video, I rolled a 1 out of 6. I had 3 items. 2 of them, I only gave an option of 1 on the die. The one that I felt was most urgent and important, I gave a 4 out of 6 probability on the die. Options 3 through 6 would have been for that other thing. I rolled a 1. I rolled a 1 out of 6 probability for one option. And now I am sitting with the outcome. If I succeeded and felt it was fantastic, 2 possibilities. I realized it was well worth it. It gave me novelty and excitement and I grew and it's like, okay, this is great. Maybe I give it more life for another week because it was fucking fantastic. I grew so much. Or I realized I did it. I achieved it. And also I could just do it because why not? Just schedule it. But I realized that if I am playing in a container of true performance, maybe that isn't pushing me in the direction that I know that I need to build. Great insight. So now I've automatically filtered and felt the outcome of that. Either it gets another roll in the die or it doesn't. And if it doesn't need to come back for a while. And so through that process, I'm eliminating things that could have been an option and I'm gaining insight into where true value is. I may not even know it yet. That might take 2 more weeks. But I'm working between these things. Okay, I feel like that's not quite it. This is more it. Now the other possibility is that I fail. I take my penalty, sniff the salt, lemon in the eye, do the whole thing. And I realize, oh, that sucks. And it has elucidated one important thing or 2 important things. So I take the penalty. First option is that I realize the juice is worth the squeeze, just like on the other side. And I say, okay, penalty sucks. But the target was good. I need to give it another chance, and this week I don't fail. I either need to be more clear on what it is, or I need to work on my execution. Those are incredible things to learn, and you know what? It's not a coach being like, do this in this way, consider this. Where do you feel it? Doesn't matter how you fucking felt. You felt how awful it is when you fail. You do the processing immediately and you figure it out and you're like, okay, these things need to change, but the idea was right. And this is a super filter because once you felt something that is meaningful and you failed, that tells you what true meaning is. You don't get true meaning from things that you easily achieve. You realize something that has real consequence and pain associated with it and is worth doing anyway. A great question I ask every coachee: what is worth doing if you fail at the end? And this is a hard thing to answer, but when you're truly tapped into that, it means the thing itself is valuable. It's either a point of character development or a point of effort or building a foundation that I may not succeed in the time or do the thing, but it's meaningful action in a direction I've identified as valuable. So if you're going to fail with things like this. It matters. Boom, super filter, put it on the dice again. The flip side of that is you do it, you take the penalty, and you realize, just like we did with the success, okay, I failed, and I realize it's probably not worth putting on the dice a second time. Penalty sucked. Not sure it was a meaningful action to take. It no longer holds a place in optionality in my key categories and filters. Amazing insight. And over the course of 1 week only, we have just worked through 3 options, not just the one that you rolled, but you felt the ones that you didn't roll because that would have been better than this. If I was going to fail, that would have been better to fail it than this. That would have moved my business forward even if I didn't achieve it. Okay, interesting. So then the next week it gets on the dice roll again. And in this kind of a way, filtering, rolling to distill into one action, right? I create the probabilities, but one of them surfaces. Implementation teaches you the process of orientation to it. Consequence teaches you the meaning. This is how they all work together. It's incredible. And over the course of weeks, you almost don't need a coach, although granted, having feedback, creating a club, having a coach, somebody that sitting across from you that can help you filter ideas and then even clear up targets so that you don't make the mistake that I mentioned, which is, oh, to do this thing, I need more space in my calendar. I just need to create space. My goal is to create space. That's not a fucking target. That's an evasion of meaning. Pursue meaningful shit. And if you can't do that, you need a bounce with somebody that can help you. But this is what's extraordinary within this, is that we don't need to ruminate. We don't need to think. Action, the dice roll, creates momentum because we are weekly eliminating things that didn't carry enough energy or focus or value. they weren't worth it. They weren't worth the penalty, or the process. Just, I could have done the other thing. So the other thing comes back, and week after week, I am feeling and orienting around meaning in a way that you can't do with ideas, and your coach can't do this shit for you. And you as a coach, you know you can't do this for a client. This needs to be a point of alignment and somatic orientation that must be felt before you can sprint after the glory and the gold. And how is that done? This is how it's done. Clear filters, call to action, implementation, and then feeling meaning over and over, orienting around it. Action produces momentum. It doesn't require hyper-analysis, introspection. You already know. You already know what matters, and you just need to filter signal from noise. Boom. Magic. Now, this is the end of this incredible series on dice coaching, a thing that we do exclusively in the Prestige. I mentioned its origins in the first video. But look, if you've been through this and you find it curious, I would highly encourage you to play with it as a human in the world, or as a coach working with somebody. But if you find yourself in a position where you know that there's that thing, maybe you try this, maybe you haven't done it yet, but you want support activating something worth sprinting after and the momentum to carry you through to the end. It's what we do, and we do it within Incendiums, within the Prestige, our accelerators within the Prestige, our Applied Somatics Academy. It's a beautiful community. We have awesome events. Coaching that is performance coaching that is somatically oriented, and our own internal models of performance, one of which being this unique approach to dicing for options that matter. It's incredible. To this side of me, you can find my masterclass on embodiment. This, if you're curious about what's come through this, that'll give you a deep dive into our somatic model, the somatic skins, which is what we talk about in a lot of videos. It's extremely cool, and it does something that most somatic models don't do. Those focus on sensory awareness and how the body is responding to certain ideas, how it stores certain emotions and carries the pains of yesterday forward, how we can heal trauma and all those things. These things are fantastic. What we do is different. On the one side is healing, on the other side is performance. We are performance-oriented in our somatic approach, and the skins model gives you directional insight. It doesn't just assess who you are and how you show up in the norm. It gives you the insights into how to access the range that exists in all of us already. This is incredible. This is not some Enneagram or some personality test that says you are this fixed type. It says this is how you express now. It probably came from a moment when you were young, where you either resisted the pressures that you felt, or focused to find a way through and reasoned, or felt to see what was going on and intuit a solution, or you yielded or adapted to the problem. Each one of these is reflected in a skin. The warrior, the shapeshifter, the sage, or the asset, we start with the orientation, but then we move into how we own that skin consciously. You can actually activate it and bring it with intention so that it doesn't bring its liabilities. But then we balance it with the other skins, and then we learn to command all four. It's an incredible framework. We use it live with high performers, and they implement this in their relationships, at their work, building a business, transforming their minds and bodies. It's powerful, it's cool, it's awesome. We also have books about it, links in the description too. But thank you for listening to this series. Reach out to us if you want to play for real and make massive headway. And I hope you got some value out of this. I've been Tom Fazio, and we are The Prestige. See you in the next video.